Hi, East Broadway. My name is Thomas Christopher.
And I'm Willinzy Jonri.
And today we will be reviewing Awake. Are you awake?
Oh, wait.
Yeah? Alright. So, we saw this show about a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
A week ago. It is directed, written, and at some point stars the playwright Lorrel Manning. Awake is a series of vignettes, all about a variety of topics that sort of are sometimes difficult to talk about.
But they're like, they have to do with society today, like they're problems that we have today and that we talk about.
So we're gonna go down the list, and just sort of
quick synopsis and like our thoughts.
So first we had the end connection.
Yeah, it's about that word you can't say literally in television or cartoons or really outside. You can say really. Oh, that's right. You can say it in TV. I forgot. You can say it in most shows though.
Yeah.
Most shows.
So it's about a man and a woman, and they're about to head out to a place, and someone related to the man says
drops the big N bomb.
The N bomb, and it's sort of like
that causes a conversation between the white boyfriend and the black girlfriend. So what are your thoughts, Thomas?
This play was a great start. It just jumps right into a conversation that I've had in my household, but that I'm sure many people across America or many different cultures have had the discussion about what does this word mean, or sort of how is it used in popular culture, and where does it go? What does it stand for, or what does it mean today? Especially with it being used all over.
Yeah, I think this started what I like to call this play not being called Awake, but being just called that's a bad one.
Awake, aka.
Yeah, Awake, aka, because I generally thought the same. I thought it was really interesting how the play, like this particular segment, there wasn't a real clear winner or to the argument. I mean, there kind of was. The boyfriend's kind of like trying to not make the situation worse, which is commendable. I thought that was actually nice, because generally in situations like these, in a lesser written scenario, the boyfriend will double down on being racist, and then it just
and then you obviously have
the villain. Yeah. But in this case, it wasn't like that, and I thought the boyfriend even brought up some like
valid points
that are then dismissed, and at the end, it's like it comes out with being like, here's like the problem. Like, how do you feel about it? I thought that was a very good start, which I guess brings us to the next one.
So the next segment, or next vignette, was Saving Souls.
This one's wild.
No, yeah. And again, we had two different sort of opinions on it. So it starts with a teacher, sort of at a well-to-do, possibly private school.
It's a private school. No, it's definitely a private school. And I think it's mostly like a white Jewish private school.
What that's like. Anyway, so white Jewish private school. A teacher sits down to have a meeting with a parent. I think she's maybe Washington Heights. You get the sense that her child is
Hispanic, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, Hispanic.
And he makes a project that doesn't really go off too well.
It's about Hitler, but it's like kind of telling about the good that Hitler did without glossing over the Holocaust and whatnot, and this and that. And basically the whole thing is that the teacher's like, hey, your son kind of like, his mom is a little anti-Semitic. And a lot of this is about like the discussion of the teacher being like, you gotta the kid has to make reparations for this. He's gotta do something about it. But the mom's like, he never said he was anti-Semitic. But it kind of flip flops because
there's an incident.
At some
point between him and another child at the school, and the child refers to him as an illegal. So you have this sort of throwing of words.
And the teacher doesn't make it a big thing. And so that's the thing. I think there was even the teacher at the beginning was even a little like, you shouldn't have done with this, Spanish dude, instead of little bit of that. Yeah. But
so it's sort of about our own personal biases,
or
how we let how sometimes society lets certain things slide.
And this is also based off kind of like a real event. I know there have been cases where like people have like, I think, used Hitler as a name or used something that people see as anti-Semitic, even though they don't outright say that they are. It's like they just happen to have some sort of similar viewpoint going on, which I think was the point of this one.
Yeah.
I think this one's being a direct point.
It's very much like, well, where does he stand? Because we never see the student.
No, of course.
So it's almost like where it is.
I think the only... Well, I think it's more of a... It's like in between a nitpick and a problem, because the author is obviously trying to make a point, which I understood. I thought that the way that the student or the son of the mother, like, how many reasons are given for people to think he's anti-Semitic, I was like, yeah, people would think you're anti-Semitic. Like, there's an example where, like, he's even defending Hitler as students in the class he's in are, like, crying. Physically crying. And I'm like, I know, like, and they characterize him as being like, I go 400% on everything. Yeah. But then it's like... He's like a hyper-perfectionist. But it's like, there's hyper-perfectionists, and then there's, like, not having any sort of social understanding. So I felt like, if people are crying and, like, physically upset at you,
that's when you
then
stop.
Maybe you tone it down a little. So I thought that was a little, because I was like, yeah, people are going to think you're anti-Semitic, my guy. Like, and then there's other thing was like looking at some of the Jewish kids as he's talking about
he's directly pointing it at maybe that kid who called him an illegal, or just obviously using like that PowerPoint or his presentation as a sense of power.
Yeah.
So he's like, now I have power over you.
Yeah, and you're like, that's not gonna that's not great.
So yeah, I will say though, as a person who has gone to all, white schools, that's it was weird to watch, because I feel like you're kind of like, it's great for like the student to be in the situation and sort of to thrive in the setting, but then he's completely going off track just to, it seems like, get back at someone.
Oh, definitely.
Who will be fine regardless. Like this moment is terrible, but he's going to suffer from it rather than, he's not really getting back at him. So yeah. The next vignette is Carlos the Protector.
This one was very good.
Yeah, so it's basically a monologue of a
cop,
middle-aged cop,
who's very like New York. Like, it starts with him talking about how he doesn't like his son playing with dolls.
Yeah,
but it's not because he hates gays. It's because
he wants him to sort of not be in that space, I guess.
No, he doesn't want his son to be made fun of for playing with dolls. And he's like, I'm not homophobic because I have like a gay uncle.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was very like New York kind of, like, I guess, cliche mindset.
For sure. Yeah. And it eventually spirals into sort of an incident that happens with him entering a volatile situation,
and he ends up shooting a woman of color, which is like kind of what it's about.
Yeah. And so I think the setting is actually his disposition, or like them sitting down and like talking with him about what happened. And so throughout it, he sort of gets more agitated, because I'm sure he's been through like multiple.
Because the whole thing is just basically like the police shooting incidents that happened today, but taken from the perspective of the cop. And what I thought was interesting about this one was that it felt like it didn't specifically mention race. Like, race was not mentioned a lot in his story, but because it's his story, you can't really take it by face value. Like, in a real situation, you can't really take it by face value. But here, he didn't really talk about race. A lot of it was based on his own, like, fear, which I thought was interesting, and how there were a lot of, like, kind of, like, elements that made it very hard to be like, no, I wouldn't have shot this person. It was very much like in the heat of the moment when you have all these things stacked against you.
He just acts.
And
the thing is, too, it's also interesting that he is a person of color. So the cop of color speaking about a crime against a person of color.
Yeah.
And a woman of color at that. So yeah, there's a lot of layers in Carlos the Protector. The next vignette was the date.
Oh,
I thought that one was really cute.
It's the most, like, cut and dry. Like, there's no discussion. Like, it's basically two people having dinner, like two people of a European descent.
One guy is like a highfalutin sort of business type, and he's just bragging about like, oh, I'm gonna buy.
He eventually just calls people of color of having limited intellect, and you're like, all right, that's it. Cut and dry.
Stamp the villain,
because it's supposed to work as a break because the first three are so heavy. So this one's just kind of like.
And the thing is, too, with the female character, she's like struggling. She's very much like a modern day, either millennial or sort of liberal, who's like, no, I really want to sit down and talk about sort of the layers that society has placed on us in this sort of hetero male white structure.
Guy doesn't care.
And, yeah, he's just like, well, whatever. Like, I'm here because yeah,
that's it. I think we should go to the next one.
Okay,
but we shouldn't really talk about this one because this one all relies on a twist in the mid. So we'll just say this one's like
I'll say it.
Yeah.
A and J rule the universe. Talk about
It's basically about two, I guess, high schoolers.
Two high school students
drive into like a party and basically they talk to each other and get their relationship and where they are in life. And this one isn't an argument or anything. It's mostly about kind of like the twist in the middle to the end that you get. And I guess that's all we should really go into.
Just be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, especially the ending, I got emotional, like, a little bit. So I was like, oh, it's really...
I think it's a good, the ending is both emotional and also kind of like, it gives you something to think about, like where
we are.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a break, and then we get Flowers, which is another monologue.
I think this one was also a little cut and dry.
It's very much just, like, her sitting down and being like, yeah, so I'm in this situation. Like, I'm here because I have anger problems. Do I really have anger issues? What's going... Like, she basically just goes on the story. And you're kind of, like, seeing it from her perspective rather than maybe her antagonizers. It's like, she's like a coworker from work. Like, me and a coworker, and then stuff happens. But I don't want to spoil it because I actually like this story.
This one is also kind of like about race, and it's specifically about the situations where like you have like a white friend who then introduces you to other white friends. It's like everyone here is white, and I'm the only person of color. Like, why am I here? So this one was also very good. It doesn't really have like a big twist or anything, but it's very like it's a good monologue. And I think it's
sort of like peeling back the layers of like, oh, there's this stereotype, but then like let's just look at the person rather than sort of the image.
And then the next one's the interview.
Yeah.
This one has the director.
And the playwright. He's just in it.
Here.
And so this also has a pretty decent twist. But it starts in a coffee shop. And it's just like, this guy is just sitting having some coffee. And he's actually a recently elected, like...
Is he a mayor?
Mayor, alderman...
Something.
Yeah. And he gets stopped by this college student. Who's like, yo, like... Oh my gosh, it's you! Can I have the interview? And that sort of just starts slowly revealing some secrets about the alderman.
And as you said, I think this one like none of these are bad. They all get you to the point. I think this one, for me at least, felt like it was a tad bit cliche. Because the point of this one, just a little bit, like it's really a little bit. So like it's in between a nitpick and an actual complaint, or I guess critique rather. But this one is a lot about like, I guess kind of like the clergyman's or the political man's like kind of place in power.
Yeah.
And this is about like what he would do, what he could gain or lose from certain revelations. And I felt that when they talk about when they characterize him, I felt they could have left out a few elements of his characterization, which I can't really go into without kind of spoiling a big twist.
And I definitely think here there is a heavy emphasis on who has the power.
Yeah,
and you definitely see that.
And I think that's good. I think you could have taken out this one thing to make it, because I felt like by the end that like there was a clear villain and a clear hero, which I think
have a side.
Yeah, which I think ruins the argument, because if you side with the villain, then it's like, well, you're siding with this behavior, which is not
So it's less of a gray area.
Yeah.
In that vignette. Great. The next vignette is Hands.
This one's adorable.
Also monologue. Nice. Yeah, no, it's really touching. So there's like a community award ceremony or someone's getting honored. And it's basically just about sort of the immigrant experience. And how...
It's like, a good immigrant experience.
Yeah.
Not a mess.
And how you can assimilate and still have your culture, but also find like common bonds. It's just like, well, yeah, it's
just real nice.
There's nothing grim or like dark about it. It's just a nice human story
that makes you think of like kind of like little shops around you that you go to,
mom and pop
shops, like little bodegas and whatnot.
And it does definitely touch on sort of the looming threat of gentrification, the fact that gentrification is happening in this area.
It's a little more hopeful because it's like your little restaurants that have like various ethnicities, like they're still around, like they welcome you home. It's nice. And I guess here's the last one, the future, question mark. And this one
I liked it.
No, I did not dislike it.
No, I know.
Yeah. I thought the future, which is about two kids, like 8.
They're like teenagers.
They're teenagers.
Yeah.
Teenagers are basically like driving up to go to Canada because of reasons given in the play or in the segment.
Yeah.
And it's a brother and a sister.
And they're sort of like complete polar opposites of this discussion of like, oh, if we're from here, like,
and there's differing political views.
Exactly. And I like how it's explored. Like, they're not just on the opposite spectrum of like this one particular issue, like what this scene is about, but they're completely differing of almost everything. And yet their love is for each other is still really apparent, which is also kind of touching too.
Yeah,
because like everybody's family's like that, or like, you know, you might not click with everybody, but at the end of the day, you still miss them. Yeah.
Generally.
So, any final thoughts about Awake? Do you feel like, who do you think this show is directed towards?
I think the show's kind of directed towards about everybody. Like, I don't think it's directed at one singular race, because I think that would be missing the point. I think it's directed just people who have an interest in, like, today's kind of, I guess, like, problems of society or whatnot. Or if they don't. Like, I think it's for both people who are aware of it and are not aware of it, because then you become awake, as the play states, as the name states.
And it forces the discussion to happen.
Yep.
Especially for people who are on opposite sides of the spectrum or whatever the issue is.
And when we went there was like a good, well, it wasn't this open to like reviewers or whatnot. So, but there was a good view of like different, there was like real old, there was some like old people.
You had a
real old
spectrum.
people. Yeah. So you got people from like, who have probably like lived with this type of stuff and seen it. You got people
or people who are just being introduced or have never seen that perspective. That's why I really like the monologues in this show, because it really, like, I was at first very conflicted with Carlos the Protector, but it made me think about what is it like from a cop's perspective.
So yeah, this is a very like, and it's not super long, it doesn't feel that way. The fact it's in little segments helps a lot. It's not just one long. Yeah, that would make it feel much longer. So yeah, I would say if you have any interest in any of these viewpoints, in like race or like gender,
anything about sex,
no.
Sort of gun rights,
and whatnot, then I would say go see this. I'd say, like, I mean, you know what? If you and your girlfriend want to have an in-depth discussion, go take your girl, or boyfriend,
you know,
significant other. But
that's about it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so this has been our review of Awake. I'm Thomas Christopher.
And I'm Willinzy Jonri.
Until next time, it's Broadway.